Cool. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This is, as I said, the first time we've hosted a live conversation in the Forma Discord, and that's because we're very excited to be hosting this project and very excited to have Jan Robert Leegte with us today. I will start by just quickly introducing myself. My name is Sam Spike. I am the head of strategy and ecosystem here at Forma, and I'm generally responsible for curating drops and working with artists to produce interesting work on Modularium. Our guest today is Jan Robert Leegte. Jan Robert is a Dutch artist who's been making work on and about the internet since the 1990s. He is perhaps best known for his extensive body of work exploring the materiality of the web interface, examining how digital elements function as both sculptural and conceptual objects. In recent years, Leegte has expanded his practice to include blockchain technologies and NFTs, continuing his investigation of digital materiality in the ever-unfolding internet. His work has been exhibited at many leading institutions internationally, including the Stedelijk Museum in Amsterdam, the Centre Pompidou in Paris, and London's Whitechapel Gallery. He is currently represented by Upstream Gallery Amsterdam. So thank you very much, Jan Robert, for joining us.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Great to be here, Sam.
Thank you. It's great to have you here. We are here, obviously, to talk about your new work, Wanderer, which is being hosted on-chain on Forma and opens tomorrow afternoon in physical form at your solo booth at Paris Photo Art Fair with Office Impart Gallery, who are a great gallery who are based in Berlin, who I've had the pleasure of working with before. And to get things started, I thought I'd just ask us to tell you a bit about the work. What is Wanderer and how does it work?
Excellent. Well, hi, everybody. Great you all came out. And excuse me for a bit of background noise because I'm actually in the Grand Palais building up. So it's rumors of behind, but I can hear you well. I hope you can hear me well. As Sam said, that's also good. I'm also represented by Office Impart alongside Upstream Gallery. That they are the ones who are showing me, as Sam said. And I wanted to present a new blockchain work called Wanderer. And Wanderer sort of is, I would say, it's a continuation of the more recent path I've been taking with blockchain art. Of course, as with everybody, when you enter the stage, you have to get to know it in all its peculiarities. And once you get more mature into the material, you can really start exploring your boundaries. And I really feel that for me, it becomes really connected to my traditional net art, web art, basically meeting blockchain art. I really feel there's so much territory to explore. So previous sort of expansions of what a NFT collection could be was, of course, web, these sort of networked collections of tokens. Then came Walled Garden, which was introducing sort of social aspects within the token. And now Walled Garden, which is actually sort of layering tokens on a map surface, a web service, sort of giving them a local localization. Also, I've really tried to sort of push what you could use the blockchain for as a material. And this is by far the most, I would say, experimental one because, I'm really going into deep for far too much now already. Let me briefly just tell you what Wanderer is. Wanderer is a map service. We're using OpenStreetMaps, and on the launch tomorrow, the Wanderer will start wandering outside the Grand Palais on the map. And as soon as it gets a junction, it will have to make a choice. And the way of saying that is that as soon as it hits a junction, the application on the server will send a 0 zero-tier token to a wallet it owns, and with the actual lat and long location that it is at the moment, and it will retrieve a token hash, and the hash will form as a dice to make a choice to go left, right, whatever choices it has, and so forth, and so forth. So doing it this way, the wallet transaction history will become the path of the wanderer. It will contain all the lat long positions, the choices made. So even if the open map server will fail in the future, not be fundable or whatever reason, the path that the wanderer has taken will be forever etched into the blockchain as transaction logs. And so this is kind of interesting because now we have a web server application which is live performative, talking to a wallet. So there's no smart contracts involved, but it's I thought it would be the most elegant way of logging onto a blockchain by taking the contract out completely, just sending transactions and using that as a log method. It's a multifaceted piece because that is the core of the project. That's the project I'm presenting here at the Grand Calais here in Paris. But we've also added an NFT layer in top, which I think is very interesting because that will also add a certain level of archiving this project. The NFT layer will, tomorrow when it starts walking, every junction will become a lintable button. And that means that the online audience can mint any junction it's made, which was one of his choices, and every junction will be unique. So when you mint that junction, which could be, I don't know, somewhere in Paris, but if you wait a couple of weeks, it could be walking around, I don't know, neighboring country, and wait a couple of months or years, God knows where it ends. And you can mint at any junction, and a junction will record sort of the last four choices before, and sort of express it as a poem. But you probably know it from any sort of map service using the car or whatever. So take the next left and take the first right. You will have to pass the church, and we use sort of that textual information to create a little elegant poem of 4 lines, which sort of marks that one specific point. So they're all unique. Apart from that, it will generate a sort of graphical ornament in blue, which is sort of poetic interpretation of wandering, which will be completely assembled on chain as an SVG. So that's what I mean. The wanderer is a complete map server-based phenomenon, but its tracks are all stored on the blockchain through wallet transactions, and key points minted will be stored on chain as these little owens. So if everything, as I said, if the server dies, we'll have that remnant online, which I find really quite beautiful, which is a beautiful way of boxing it.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. I am hearing quite a lot of background noise. I'm not sure if there's any possible way you're able to find a slightly quieter spot at the Grand Palais, but I know that the acoustics of that space are not particularly amenable to having to quiet. But that's a really helpful overview for everybody, I think. Obviously, this is a piece that exists predominantly online and on chain. And as you say, even if the server fails, there is this sort of permanence that it has on chain in logging those coordinates and logging those directions. But you're also, as you say, presenting it physically in the booth as a sort of sculptural work. And I wondered if you could just tell us a little bit more about what that consists of.
Yes. As what we're presenting here is a dual screen installation, which on one screen you'll see the agents, which we can call it the Wanderer, which is an autonomous algorithmic agent, which will be wandering the map. tomorrow at 5, I believe. There will be is the opening, the preview opening, and at that point I'll kickstart it, and I'll start wandering outside the building into Paris, and which will be viewable online, both online as in the installation. It's of course a public address. It'll be wanderer.leegte.org. You can see the placeholder at the moment. You can see it located in the center of the Grand Palais, waiting, looking around. And tomorrow I'll just start beelining to the head entrance and wandering into Paris. On the second screen will be a recitation version of the poems which you mint. So as each poem mints sort of it's about one location. So it's 4 lines about leading to that one location. On the screen will be a constant flow of these poetic lines, sort of creating a textual representation of the wall. You could even just follow it. You could just read it and try and follow it, because it'll go straight on, take left, past the church. So you could follow the textual one as well. The Wanderer is actually wandering at 4 kilometers an hour. So if you have it on your phone, you can just stroll along. So it could be fun joining the Wanderer when it passes through your city and just see where it takes you. So the installation here, the 2 screens, is the installation version, which is without the NFT layer. The NFT layer is solely online, and the installation is also up for sale for any collector, which would be pure the Wanderer as an installation, as a sort of dual viewing installation. I'm sorry, dual channel. I hope it's not too noisy. Sorry, people.
No, it's a lot better actually. I think I don't know if you're holding the phone closer to your mouth or something, but I can hear you a lot more clearly than I could at the beginning. This is a very ambitious work. Technically speaking, we've been talking about how it could take shape and what the best implementation would be for quite some time now. I can't remember when we first started speaking about this piece, but I think it was towards the beginning of this calendar year. Could you tell us just a bit more about, what the principal technical challenges were in putting it together? Because it hasn't been simple.
Definitely hasn't been simple. Fat kudos to Jasper van Loenen, especially helped by Bram Befrode, who have been working on this now for a month full time. I think it's a completely underestimated project. It sounds so simple. It's one of these conceptual works you think of, oh, would lovely to have this autonomous agent wandering and logging on the blockchain. Well, thought of that in a few minutes, and then you have to make it, and it's extremely tedious. So there's all this aliveness to it, which I think is quite, unique to this project. It is constantly wandering the map with this live input, making live decisions. Whereas a lot of NFT projects are, of course, they're in a way statically generated. So you have you create one on demand, and there's a cap to it, and boom, there they are, and they're fixed. I mean, even web, which felt like a massive sort of step for me to sort of link them together, is still sort of in control, because they're all generated and deterministically fitted into this network. This is full of surprises, because it could walk into a weird station and get lost or not come out, and there could be some data hiccups. So it's a real live work, a live performative work. And then to have it sort of keep performing well, what happens when you mint, and there are multiple mints happening, and it has to be kickstarted. What does it do when it's out of connection, etc., etc. Apart from, to host a project like that takes like nearly a terabyte data, because you need all these map services from whole the world, because potentially you could wander everywhere, and it's quite tedious. Yeah, it sounded so simple. It's often with projects like this, you think, oh, the elegance. Why hasn't anybody done this? Well, there's a reason. But we managed, I think. I'm pretty optimistic. It looks wonderful now, and I believe tomorrow it will go out and wander into the world, hopefully for a very, very long time.
Super exciting. I'm really, really excited for this. And to be there at, what will it be, 4 p.m. UTC, so 11 a.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Paris time, local time. Uh, I wanted to dig maybe a little bit more into the sort of longer or deeper context behind the work and its place within sort of art historical context as well. There's a long history that you and I have discussed a bit of artists and writers being interested in this figure of the walker, especially the urban walker, and especially in Paris. You, on the text that you've written, the short little text on the Wanderer website, you explicitly acknowledge this when you describe the Wanderer as a flâneur, and you say that the work draws on the situationist practice of the dérive. For those of us who aren't necessarily familiar with this history of the walker in Paris and with the situationists. Could you tell us a little bit more about what a flâneur is, or what does that mean, and who were the situationists, and what was a dérive?
Yes, that's the nice thing. So where the nice thing about the project, it's sort of it came forth from the whole discussion. Um, I introduced, I think, the derivé for the first time when making web in its description. So I was pondering on the idea of the of web being a network. It's the computer which is sort of wandering with it in its own algorithmic possibility. So the generative art has a strong link with wandering. I think any maker who is into generative art can acknowledge this. There's simply Brownian motion, and there's these patterns of programming which feel like wandering, and um, so it's a very direct related art historical context, I think. So from that came the one. Also, let's literally make a wanderer on a map. Uh, I thought it just makes so much sense. Um, and then, of course, already was like, well, there is this tradition within art, and especially well known in Paris with the Situationism, which is a 50s movement post-war, um, I would say heavily anti-capitalistic, typical Parisian artist movement, which was so fed up with the sort of the society of spectacle and the sort of the driven narrative of money and the commerce, that they once sort of free themselves by just randomly walking and experience this as a, well, a form of activism or poetic activism, and see this as a uh, yeah, a form of resistance in a way. Um, that is not directly in here, but I think this act of walking, as I said, always felt powerful within generative art for myself. It's been liberating. It's been a way of also sort of freeing yourself as the artist with the artist's choice, etc., etc. It's been uh, also, yeah, a way to break out of that. I don't know. Typically, artist projection, everybody has. Um, so the situation is, what they did is do a lot of walks. They would also create sort of poetic reflections on that, create these psychographs, psychosocial graphs, as they mentioned, which are sort of collages of poetic reflections on their walks. And um, uh, the flâneur is, of course, something which you will find early. Even, I mean, you go 19th century and you will see the um, the flâneur, the sort of the dandy we know also from London, and flâneur was also a sort of an act of engaging with the city, usually always without a goal. It's just to go out and be with the city and see what happens. So in a way, this is what this algorithm is also doing. And what I found so fascinating when making this, it really dawned on me that um, it's such an optimistic work in a way, but it's also kind of sad because this freedom of movement is something which is rapidly uh, dropping out of the world. I mean, it's borders are being raised, and the visas and everything is being cut off, and tariffs and God knows what, and the world is not becoming an open place. The wanderer will be able to wander anywhere. You just wander right through Ukraine into Russia, and right through Israel, and God knows where into Africa, and nobody will stop it. So it's a very, let's say, uh, yeah, sort of the algorithm lives in a naive and beautiful world, uh, which I can see as like a contemporary flaneur. So maybe the flaneur has to be a digital agent.
That's lovely. Um, yeah, exactly. As you say, I mean, the Situationists were exploring the sort of like emotional and political potential of walking around Paris in the 50s, but you go right back to the 1860s, and there's a very famous essay by Charles Baudelaire, the poet, called The Painter of Modern Life, which is generally kind of considered to be one of the sort of first sort of foundational descriptions of what modern what we now think of as modern art, sort of starting in the late 19th century, and what the artist was within that, where he associated the artist, or described the artist, as a flâneur, as a dandy who would walk around the modern city in this sort of detached way with no particular purpose, seeing but not being seen. And then, you know, after that, in the 1920s, that was picked up by the Surrealists and the Dadaists. There's a number of famous novels that people like André Breton, who was the figurehead of the Surrealists, wrote, which are generally descriptions of walks through Paris where they would encounter, you know, seemingly everyday things that would take on this magical or kind of interesting surreal resonance, or even a woman that they would fall in love with spontaneously on the spot and would follow around the city. And so it's a really kind of rich history. But for a lot of those people, certainly for the surrealists and for the situationists, um, as you said, the act of walking was a sort of form of resistance, and we can go into what that means a little bit more in a second. But you describe it now as a very optimistic work, The Wanderer. At the same time, on the site where you write about the work, you say that it is in part a reflection on the, and I quote here directly, the early promise of the internet as an open and free space at a time when that openness is increasingly being enclosed. So I wondered whether you could speak a bit more about that. And it seems to me that that suggests that there is a sort of political comment that the work is making that isn't so far from what the Situationists or the Surrealists would have been doing in the 20th century with their walking.
Yes, yes. In my, I would say, sort of humble way, because I'm not a strong political speaker, but of course we all feel stuff, and I, my artist, I as an artist, I grew up in the '90s, and I fell in love with the internet as a medium during art school. '97 was the peak of net art. My heroes, Jody and Alexis Shogin and uh, Oli Ali Alina, and they were all at their peaks. And it was a very, very different time. It was a time where the internet was very much in its child phase. It wasn't a big thing yet, um, and it didn't affect the world. It was a separate place. It had no effect in politics. politics and no effect on the internet. It was a free space, literally. And that was also the dream of a lot of initiators from the internet, making the places within it. And the artists also are very, in a way, drawn to it, as sort of a lot of artists in the 90s engaging with net art came from a punk background. So they had a very sort of leftish anarchist background, very anti-institutional. And that set the tone. There was we had netiquette. People were polite. People were expressing themselves, but people were also nice and radical and would do whatever they liked. And above all, they would not tolerate authority. It was a place of freedom. That completely evaporated with Web 2.0, and sort of marked the death of the old web. Beautifully explains through a piece of Constant Billat, which is the thing, the death of the internet. I believe xxxpost.xmxx or something. Amazing work. And that was what it is. Expressing yourself on the internet became a sort of, the way I knew it, sort of very underground, sideway way of working, because it was all happened on social media. And then came blockchain, then came the Web3, the third big wave of change on the internet, and that heralded again very much the sort of the ethics of the 90s, but then hyper power and money. So it was a very big step, because Web3 had a very similar approach as Web1. It was, again, anti-institutional, decentralized, it was anonymous. There was an amount of respect I found as well. The sort of netiquette was back. And a place where freedom was valued above anything else. Web3 has been evolving as well. I don't think Web3 is the same as it was in the beginning. It's the same as web has changed over the last 30, 35 years. So in a way, the Wanderer expresses that initial freedom of the web is always promised to us, but constantly is taken away from us. Yeah, so I think that is what it is.
Yeah, it's funny when I was thinking about this and I was prepping for this conversation yesterday, I was thinking about the Situationists and I was thinking about the net. And for those who don't know, there was, in the long history of civil uprisings in France, there was a big moment of protest and general strikes in May 1968, in which the Situationist group, as sort of radical left wing, a group of artists and activists, were very involved. And one of the famous slogans from that time was "Beneath the paving stones, the beach." This very sort of poetic sentiment that beneath the sort of hard, impersonal exterior of the modern city, there, is this latent freedom. And I thought actually that it's really interesting. There's like almost a direct echo of that sentiment and of that imagery in that phrase that we don't hear so often these days, but that was used all the time in the early days of the web. This idea of surfing the web, and now we rarely talk about surfing the web, jumping from site to site, from hyperlink to hyperlink, because we all spend our time sort of basically confined to a small number of platforms, where we're not only sort of less free, but also constantly being surveilled. As we all know, constantly everything we do is being logged and data is being sold. Something that the crypto movement, cypherpunk movement, blockchain in general has always tried to fight against. And so I thought I would also ask, maybe to challenge again the idea that the Wanderer is a purely optimistic work. It seems to me that there is an element of it in which the Wanderer, as this agent, as this figure, and that is constantly moving, just randomly around the world, it does have this aimlessness and this freedom to it. But at the same time, the spectator dynamic that you've established through the website and being able to watch this point moving around the city and have, everywhere that it goes be logged immutably on chain, also seems just as much to stage a sort of a scenario of, surveillance. And the work almost feels to me as much about, that sort of contemporary reality in which we're all constantly being observed both offline and online, as it is about, the freedom of the wanderer. I'm not sure whether that's something that you thought about or a way in which you see the work, but I'd be interested to know.
Beautifully put, Sam. That's very nice. It definitely opens the doors to different views I didn't have per se. I must say, optimistic is was badly chosen. It echoes that optimistic feeling, but of course, it also expresses the very much lost um, freedom. Um, Not per se because of logging, but I think that's well remarked. But just simply, yeah, it's something we see so much. It's that we observe through doom scrolling and all kinds of bullshit. We observe the freedom from behind the glass, but looking at the glass. So you're not like 95% of the world population is not will not be able to do what the Wanderer is doing. I don't know if it's that high percentage, but a lot of people won't be. Um, and so it's a reflection as well. I mean, it's also in a way, it's naively bringing in this 90s feeling, which is very dear to me, but also sort of confronting it with the rise of AI and sort of accelerationism, where these agents are inheriting our freedom in a way. And that's probably what you're watching here as well. So it's beautiful, but it's also a little painful, bit of both. So I agree with you, Sam. I think that is going on.
I love what you say about the agents um, as inheriting our freedom, the wanderer being the only figure now who can really just, move at will from country to country, street to street, without, facing any of the hindrances or the bureaucracies that or the danger that would confront a human being. Um, I also was thinking sort of on that note of both, I suppose, and the idea of surveillance, but also the freedom of sort of the technological in today's world, of another piece that you're probably familiar with, which is a work called The Nine Eyes of Google Street View by John Rathman, who is an internet artist who's been somewhat involved in NFTs, but has a very interesting body of work reflecting on the internet. And in that work, Rathman, which is, I believe, an ongoing piece, but started in 2008, he would go on to Google Street View and he would travel the world from his computer, and he would take screenshots of of various views that were captured on by the car that was taking the Google Street View images. And it's this sort of performance of street photography on the one hand, that's a little bit like actually the photography of Adjay, who was a 19th century, early 20th century photographer for the surrealists were infatuated with, who was a kind of flâneur who took photos of Paris. The Rathman work seems to me another form of sort of digital flâneurie, um, but also one that seems to hold within it that sort of tension or contradiction between, on the one hand, the sort of incredible freedom of being able to see the world, see everywhere from through a screen, from behind your desk, from home, um, and at the same time there be these sort of sinister overtones of it being, that our experience now is so mediated through that. It's in a sense that the 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 camera or the sort of Google car, it becomes a surrogate for our own freedom to be able to travel at will. And it also performs this role of a sort of surveillance device. But maybe moving on somewhat, I was interested when I was looking at your recent projects, some of which you've mentioned. One is Web, which was a generative project where these sort of you created these abstract web pages, and you could interface with them directly, you could interact with them directly, and they would link you from page to page, but each page was a sort of abstract artwork. And also Walled Garden that you mentioned, where it's a single place and people could mint various viewpoints or perspectives onto that place. That in all three of these works, you seem to have sort of been looking a lot at the idea of exploring a territory or exploring a place. And I wondered whether that's something that has sort of always been within your work, whether that's an interest that you feel has intensified recently for you, and if so, why you've started making work that's more spatial in this way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. No, I think that's deeply the character of my work. I think I've always engaged with the internet, the network computer, or the computer in general, the interface as a spatial territory, which is quite the opposite from a lot of people who use the computer. I would say more as an more as a tool to continue in I would say, in our 2D painterly or drawing tradition. For me, it's always been sculptural and even more, I would say, architectural. I am trained as an architect. I did architecture study once upon a time, a long time ago. Then I shifted to sculpture, in which I really was sort of exploring installations and performing in installations, very much like Bruce Sherman and Naumann. And so, so that sort of autonomous architecture is is the way I think, I would say, fundamentally. And even if you go back to um, ornament, my first drop was pretty much what I'm showing them on this fair again. I mean, you see my ornament is my profile pic. Um, I'm bringing them on oak panels here, so they're also very sculptural works. I saw them as sort of NFT sculptures in a way, and then Window came, which Window was already a spatial work because it was responsive. You could make it very large or small; it would change. It'd be very tactile. So again, a sort of Lydia Clark sort of interactive sculptural work. Then came JPEG, and JPEG also had a very responsive character to it, although it was extremely painterly. Um, and so it's often I did a weird drop coin, which was fantastic, which was like 7,500 over multi chains, sort of dropped this sort of sea of coins mixing into this into the environment that is the web or Web3. So we always have this yearning to visualize contracts and clouds of tokens, the interactions, and now the block is ticking away as a sort of spatial and performative entity, which I somehow want to tap into with my work. Although I'm not interested in creating images and putting them online, I want to make works which are the machine itself, and are directly relating to it. And in the last three, I've taken a sort of more of serious departure in sort of looking for that. And I think this work would be definitely a large step, because it's really leaving sort of the traditional blockchain territory and mixing different media. Um, yeah, yeah, that would be.
Am I right in saying, I think from reading your bio somewhere, that you studied as an architect originally?
People say they can't hear anything, or is it?
I'm not sure. There is somebody who's having an issue, but I think for the most part, people can hear. But did you? uh, Yes, did you hear that question? Did you study architecture? Study as an architect originally?
Yeah, yeah. I started architecture. I did it for a couple of years. And it definitely has been very key and influential to the way I think.
Yeah. Amazing. I think, well, that leads me on in a way to what's my sort of final question, which is about why you choose and have so long chosen to work with the sort of subject matter that you do. I thought, when we were talking about walking and what walking meant for artists in the 20th century, sort of the 20th century avant-gardes, walking was all part of this desire to sort of defamiliarize and re-enchant the everyday habitual experience of the city. But that sort of defamiliarization and re-enchantment of the everyday was like a big part of 20th century avant-garde practice. But it also seems to me to be a method that's also quite fundamental to your work, in the works that you've discussed, like ornament or window, or works you've made with scroll bars. You're taking these motifs that are extremely familiar to us as users of computer technology, and you're sort of decontextualizing them and turning them into something else, into these sculptural objects or spatial objects. And if you sort of look at the landscape of contemporary digital art, not to generalize, one can't generalize, but I think there is a general impulse towards creating work that is very immersive, or that is very fantastical, or many artists are informed by the science fiction imaginary. And your work is not that. It is much more grounded in the everyday, in these things that we interact with every day. And I wondered what appealed to you about that, why you chosen to work in that register.
Um, it's a very deeply personal uh, thing for me. I think I often paraphrase Bruce Nauman with his uh, a, a true artist helps the world by revealing mystic truths. In a way, I think he framed that perfectly, because he made that in a neon work. It's a very famous work, probably everybody knows it. And what he said itself about it is that the work is very it sort of hangs on sort of on two sides. So he said, on one side, I'm sincere, I mean it. I think my task is to reveal mystic truths. But on the other hand, it sounds so tacky. Um, I had to make it in neon as a bar sign, and and that is the balance. And I think for me, I am personally, I have a big issue with the waves and waves of content which are just drowning us as a people. And I'm way more interested in the ground, as you say. And it is a meditative way of approaching art. It's which has a very strong resonance in the 60s and 70s. A lot of my heroes came from and influenced me. And I really tried to see the network computer environment through those eyes, as a sort of contemplation on the materiality of it. So not get lost in thought online, but wake up and look and experience the actual stuff which you're interacting with, which is beautiful in itself. And so that is, it's sort of my, I would say, my late modernist heart, engaging in this postmodern time, uh, to sort of wake people up to this magic we're into.
Well, as an um, unreconstructed late modernist myself, I very much share that sensibility, and I think I love what you say about exploring the materiality of the web and of the digital. And I think it's especially interesting in works like this, or works like web, where you've you're not just exploring the materiality of these elements that are already object-like or have a certain objecthood to them, but you are really exploring the materiality of the network. I think I am out of questions now, and we are running to time. So I just wanted to give you a final opportunity to say anything you'd like, and then I'll just recap for everybody's benefit the details, the practical details about the launch tomorrow, and how people can get involved.
I am completely happy. It was a lovely conversation. Thanks for this. Thanks to be able to talk about it after all these weeks and weeks of just building and building up. So now it's really time to launch tomorrow. So really look forward. Thanks, Sam, for this talk.
Thank you so much, and good luck with the booth build and getting everything installed. I know from personal experience how stressful that can be, and how stressful and unpleasant those art fairs can be during the build. So yes, just to conclude for everybody, Wanderer is Jan Robert's new work. It launches tomorrow at Paris Photo Art Fair, which is a big art fair that happens in Paris in the Grand Palais. It will be installed as a screen-based sculptural, two-channel sculptural installation on Jan Robert's solo booth with Office Impart. And it will go live at wanderer.leegte.org, as well as on site at 5 p.m. Paris time, which is 4 p.m. UTC, and 11 a.m. Eastern time. It's because it's on Forma, it requires bridging to Forma, so you can either bridge ETH from an Ethereum L1 or L2, or you can bridge TIA from Celestia. You can do all of that at bridge.forma.art, which is our native bridge, in which we've also integrated Relay. And each NFT, so each junction on the Wanderer's route, will be mintable as an on-chain NFT that will cost 1 TIA. Which is not a huge amount of money. I quite like it because it's roughly the price of a postcard, and I like to imagine these NFTs as sort of postcards, little poetic postcards that are being sent by the wandering agent to the minter. And so it's 1 tier per NFT, but only one NFT is available for minting per junction. The junctions happen pretty regularly, and so you won't have to wait long. It may be a bit competitive. It will be, I think, nice to own ones at the very beginning, but the work will last indefinitely. And starting in Paris, hopefully, when we look in months and years to come, we'll find the Wanderer, roaming through, the rural China or who knows where. So yes, thank you again, Jan Robert, for joining us. Thank you everybody for attending. This has been recorded, and I will try and transcribe the conversation and get it published